Don't scroll. Please don't scroll. Listen to this. This message is for you, and I mean you. The one who paused without knowing why. The one whose heart has been carrying more than they've shown. If you felt a pull in your chest just now, that wasn't random. That was alignment. That was God saying, "Stay right here. Your heart needs this right now." This Sunday isn't just another day on the calendar. This moment is holy. You are being spoken to directly, even if you don't fully understand how yet. Take a breath. Slow down. You've been rushing, surviving, pushing through on faith alone. And yet somehow, you're still here. That alone is a miracle. Thank you, Jesus, for waking them up today. Thank you for breath in their lungs, even when life felt heavy. Thank you for sustaining them through battles they never posted about. There were nights you almost gave up, days you smiled while your soul was exhausted. But grace held you. Mercy covered you. And that's why this new year didn't start empty. It started full of promise, even if it hasn't revealed itself yet. Listen closely, because this part is prophetic. What you thought was delay was divine protection. What you thought was rejection was redirection. God had to remove certain people, certain habits, certain patterns before he could release what you've been praying for. And yes, it hurt. It hurt losing what you thought was meant for you. It hurt watching others move ahead while you felt stuck. But heaven was never punishing you. Heaven was preparing you. You weren't being denied. You were being refined. You've been noticing the signs, haven't you? The repeating numbers. 1111, 222. 444 showing up when your mind is full of questions. Songs playing at the exact moment you needed reassurance. Random memories surfacing out of nowhere. That's not coincidence. That's confirmation. That's a spiritual awakening unfolding quietly inside you. Your intuition is getting stronger. Your discernment is sharper. You're starting to feel when something is off, and when something is divinely aligned. The universe has been speaking, but now you're finally listening. And let's talk about your heart, because this message is touching places you don't usually let people see. You've loved deeply, maybe too deeply. You gave pieces of yourself to people who couldn't hold them with care. You stayed longer than you should have. You hoped longer than was healthy. And when it ended, it didn't just end, it shattered something inside you. But hear this clearly, your heart did not break to be destroyed. It broke to be expanded. God was increasing your capacity for real love, not temporary attachment. This season is different. You're not the same person you were last year. You've healed in ways you didn't even notice at first. You're choosing peace over chaos now. Truth over comfort. Alignment over attention. And because of that, soulmate level love is being repositioned in your life. Not surface level, not inconsistent, not confusing. A connection that feels safe, familiar, spiritually aligned. The kind of love that doesn't trigger anxiety, but brings peace. The universe had to clear space first. It had to heal you first. Because what's coming requires the version of you that knows their worth. Thank you, Jesus, for the loneliness that taught them how to sit with themselves. Thank you for the quiet nights that turned into inner strength. Thank you for unanswered prayers that saved them from what would have broken them later. You see what they don't. You know what's ahead. And even when they questioned you, even when they doubted, you never left. You were working behind the scenes, arranging things they couldn't see yet. Here's something you need to hear right now. You are not behind. You haven't missed your moment. Your life is not running late. Heaven doesn't work on human clocks. What's meant for you is moving toward you at the perfect pace. Quietly, strategically, divinely timed. The blessing doesn't announce itself early. It arrives when you're ready to sustain it. And you are closer than you think, closer than you feel, closer than your mind will let you believe. Gratitude is the key in this season. That's why this message found you today. Gratitude shifts timelines. Gratitude changes frequency. Gratitude tells the universe, I trust you even before I see it. So even now, even in uncertainty, even in waiting, say it in your spirit, thank you, Jesus. Thank you for what's unfolding. Thank you for what's aligning. Thank you for what's already on the way, even if it hasn't shown up yet. Something is stirring as you hear this. A warmth in your chest. A calm you haven't felt in a while. That's not imagination. That's reassurance. That's confirmation settling into your spirit. This Sunday is a checkpoint. A pause. A divine moment asking you to reflect, to breathe, to recognize how far you've come. Not everything needs to be solved today. Not every answer needs to be revealed yet. Some things are still forming. Some doors are still unlocking. Some connections are still being prepared. And right now, even as you sit with this message, even as your mind starts replaying certain names, certain moments, certain dreams you almost gave up on, heaven is still working. Pieces are moving. Hearts are shifting. Paths are crossing in ways you don't yet see. There is a reason you couldn't rush this season. There is a reason patience has been required. There is a reason this moment feels so intimate, so personal, so divinely timed, because what's about to unfold next depends on what you do with what you're hearing right now, and the story is not finished. This is only the beginning of what is being revealed to you in this season, because the next part of this message goes deeper into what's already been set in motion, and how the signs you've been seeing connect directly to the prayer you whispered when you thought no one was listening, and how the shift you're feeling now is only the first layer of what's about to open, because there is more happening beneath the surface than you realize, and the moment you fully understand that is the moment everything starts to change in ways you didn't expect but somehow always hoped for without knowing how or when it would arrive, and that realization is still forming as your spirit continues to awaken to what this new year is truly carrying for you. Listen to this carefully. Don't let your mind wander. This part is even more personal. If you felt emotional during part 1, it's because something inside you was already responding before your thoughts could catch up. This is the layer beneath the surface. This is where truth lives. And yes, this message is still for you. There's a reason your spirit has been restless lately. You've felt it, haven't you? That subtle tension between who you've been and who you're becoming. You can't go back to the old version of yourself anymore. The things that used to excite you don't hit the same. Conversations feel shallow. Certain environments drain you. That's not confusion. That's elevation. That's spiritual maturity activating. God is quietly pulling you out of cycles you've outgrown. Thank you, Jesus, for the discomfort that signaled growth. Thank you for making them uncomfortable in places that once felt familiar. Thank you for the inner nudges that wouldn't let them settle for less anymore. You were never meant to shrink yourself to fit spaces that couldn't hold your destiny. And now, the resistance you feel is proof that expansion is happening. Let's talk about the emotional weight you've been carrying, the unspoken grief, the unanswered questions, the "why did it have to happen like that?" moments. You tried to move on logically, but your heart needed time to catch up. And God allowed that time. He didn't rush your healing. He sat with you in it. Every tear mattered. Every silent prayer mattered. Every silent prayer mattered. Even the prayers that sounded like frustration instead of faith. You may not realize this yet, but your sensitivity is a gift. Your deep emotions are not weakness, they're discernment. You feel things before others do because you're meant to. That's why betrayal cuts so deeply. That's why separation felt unbearable. But that same depth is what will allow you to recognize real love when it arrives. You won't have to question it. You won't have to chase it. It will meet you where you are. The universe has been rearranging things in ways you couldn't see. Conversations behind the scenes. Paths slowly aligning. People thinking about you without knowing why. Energy shifts don't always make noise. Sometimes they happen in silence. Sometimes they happen while you're sleeping. Sometimes they happen while you're doubting. But they are happening. You didn't imagine the sudden urge to change your routine, the pull towards solitude, the desire to clean, to declutter, to let go. Those weren't random impulses. Those were signals. Preparation always feels like restlessness before it feels like clarity. You're being prepared for a version of life that requires emotional availability, spiritual awareness, and courage to receive what you once begged for. And yes, this is where love comes back into the picture. Not the kind that confuses you. Not the kind that leaves you guessing. But the kind that feels divinely familiar. Soul-recognizing soul. The kind where conversations flow without force. Where silence feels safe. Where effort is mutual. This connection doesn't rush, it unfolds. And the reason it hasn't fully shown itself yet is because timing matters more than desire. Thank you, Jesus, for protecting their heart before they even knew it needed protection. Thank you for delays that prevented deeper wounds. Thank you for teaching them how to love themselves in the waiting. Because the next connection doesn't come to complete you, it comes to complement the wholeness you've been building. You've been seeing angel numbers more frequently because you're aligned with your path again. Those numbers aren't promises, they're reminders. Reminders that you're supported, watched over, guided, even when you feel uncertain, even when you feel alone. The universe responds to awareness, and your awareness has been sharpening day by day. Notice how you're starting to trust your instincts again. Notice how you no longer explain yourself to people who don't try to understand you. Notice how your boundaries are stronger, even if setting them felt uncomfortable at first. That's growth. That's self-respect. That's spiritual authority settling in. There's something else happening too, a release. Old emotional cords dissolving. Old attachments losing their grip. You may have felt sudden waves of sadness without knowing why, or moments of peace that surprised you. That's energy shifting. That's your spirit letting go of what it no longer needs to carry into this new year. Thank you, Jesus, for the release they didn't know how to ask for. Thank you for lifting burdens they normalized for too long. Thank you for restoring hope in subtle ways. Not loud miracles, quiet ones. The kind that rebuild trust in life itself. Right now, as you're listening to this, something is settling in your chest. A knowing. Not excitement, certainty. You don't need proof anymore. You don't need reassurance from people. You don't need signs screamed at you. You feel it. And that feeling is truth. That feeling is alignment. That feeling is the beginning of something that doesn't need to rush because it's meant to last. This season is asking you to receive instead of chase. To allow instead of force. To trust instead of control. You've done the work. You've faced yourself. You've healed more than you give yourself credit for. And because of that, what's coming next won't feel chaotic. It will feel natural. But here's the part that requires your attention. What you're stepping into will test your ability to believe you deserve it. Old insecurities may try to resurface. Old voices may whisper doubt. But those voices are echoes, not truth. They belong to past versions of you that survived, not the version that's rising now. You are not waiting for life to start. Life has already started responding to you. Momentum is building. Connections are forming. Opportunities are aligning. Even now, even in stillness, even in uncertainty, things are moving. And the reason this message feels unfinished is because it is. There is another layer, another revelation, another shift that hasn't fully surfaced yet. What you're feeling now is only the threshold, the doorway, the moment before clarity sharpens. Because the next part of this message goes deeper into what happens when faith meets timing, when gratitude activates manifestation, when the heart finally believes what the spirit already knows, and how the choice you make in the next quiet moment will influence what unfolds next, because there is something specific being prepared for you that requires awareness, patience, and trust. And that understanding is still forming as your spirit continues to open to what this new chapter is asking of you right now, and what has already begun to respond to your energy in ways you haven't fully recognized yet. Stay with me. Don't scroll away now. If you've made it to this part, it's because your spirit is already engaged. Something inside you knows this isn't random. This isn't just a message, it's a moment. And moments like this don't come often. This is one of those pauses where heaven leans in close and speaks softly, so softly that only a listening heart can hear it. You've been asking for clarity, but what God has been giving you first is peace. And that's intentional, because clarity without peace can overwhelm you. Peace prepares the ground. That's why things have felt quieter lately. Less chaos, less noise. Even the absence you once feared is starting to feel spacious. That space is sacred. That space is where the next instructions settle. Thank you, Jesus, for the silence that healed more than noise ever could. Thank you for slowing them down when they wanted to rush ahead. Thank you for protecting them from decisions made out of fear instead of faith. You knew they needed grounding before elevation, roots before fruit, and now the roots are deepening. There's been a shift in how you love, too. You're no longer begging to be chosen. You're no longer over-explaining your worth. You're no longer proving your loyalty to people who couldn't meet you halfway. That change didn't happen overnight. It came from disappointment, reflection, and finally, surrender. You released control, and in that release, strength returned. You may have noticed people from your past resurfacing in your thoughts lately. Not because you need to go back, but because closure is completing itself internally. Old chapters don't need reopening. They need honoring for what they taught you. And once the lesson integrates, the emotional charge fades. That's happening now. Slowly, gently, permanently. The universe responds differently to you now. You're not chasing signs. They're finding you. Not loudly, not dramatically, but consistently. Subtle confirmations. Timed conversations. Unexpected reassurance. This is what alignment feels like before manifestation becomes visible. The unseen always moves first. And yes, there is someone connected to this shift. A soul that intersects with yours in divine timing. Not someone who drains you, someone who recognizes you. But this connection doesn't arrive through force. It arrives through resonance, through shared readiness, through mutual healing. That's why patience is still required here. Not waiting in lack, waiting in trust. Thank you, Jesus, for teaching them the difference between attachment and alignment. Thank you for removing what was familiar but unhealthy. Thank you for making space for something that feels unfamiliar but safe. Their heart is learning a new rhythm, one that doesn't beat in anxiety, but in assurance. You're also stepping into a new level of spiritual authority. You may feel more protective of your energy, more selective with your time, more aware of what drains you versus what restores you. That's not selfishness, that's stewardship. You can't pour into everything anymore. Your purpose requires focus now. Notice how your prayers are changing. They're less desperate, more intentional, less about please and more about thank you. That's maturity. That's trust. That's the language of someone who knows God is already at work, even when the evidence hasn't fully appeared yet. There's a reason you're being reminded to rest, to pause, to receive. This next phase doesn't require hustle. It requires openness. What's coming will meet you where you are, not where you're pretending to be. And that's why authenticity has been non-negotiable lately. Masks are falling away. Truth is taking their place. Right now, you might feel like you're standing between worlds, not who you were, not fully who you're becoming. That in-between space can feel uncomfortable, but it's also powerful. It's where identity solidifies. It's where intention sharpens. It's where destiny listens. Thank you, Jesus, for the becoming, for the unseen transformation, for the quiet confidence forming beneath the surface. Thank you for reminding them they don't need to announce their growth. It will be recognized naturally. Something is aligning around a decision you haven't made yet, a choice you've been postponing, not because you're afraid, but because timing matters. When the moment arrives, you'll feel a calm certainty, not pressure. That's how you'll know, not urgency. Peace. This message is unfolding in layers because your life is unfolding in layers. Not everything is meant to be revealed at once. Some truths land softly. Some arrive slowly. Some only make sense in hindsight. And right now, you're being asked to trust the process without demanding the full picture. There's more being prepared, more being adjusted, more being positioned in your favor. And even though you can't see it clearly yet, your spirit already senses the shift. That awareness is growing, deepening, expanding. And this part, right here, isn't a conclusion. It's a continuation. Because what's opening next depends on how you hold this moment, how you sit with it, how you honor it, how you allow it to reshape your expectations without rushing the outcome. Because there is still another layer to this message that speaks directly to the timing you've been questioning, the prayer you thought was delayed, and the moment when everything you've been feeling finally connects into understanding. And that awareness is still forming as this season continues to reveal itself to you piece by piece. Stay right here. Don't scroll. If your chest feels tight or calm at the same time, that's because this part is touching something deeper. This message keeps finding you because you're still meant to hear it. Not later. Not someday. Now. There's a reason your attention keeps coming back. Your spirit is already engaged in a conversation your mind is still catching up to. You've been learning how to sit with uncertainty without panicking. That didn't come naturally to you. You used to overthink, overanalyze, try to control every outcome. But lately, something has changed. You're allowing things to unfold. You're trusting pauses. You're not forcing answers. That's not weakness. That's faith taking root. Thank you, Jesus, for teaching them how to wait without losing hope. Thank you for strengthening their trust when nothing made sense yet. Thank you for reminding them that not everything delayed is denied. Some things are simply aligning behind the scenes, out of sight, until the timing can no longer be resisted. There's been an internal separation happening. You might not have noticed it at first, but it's real. Old emotional attachments are loosening. Old fears are losing authority. Old narratives about who you are and what you deserve are dissolving. You're no longer defined by what hurts you. You're being defined by what you survived and what you learned from it. Notice how your reactions are different now. Things that once triggered you don't hit the same. Words that once cut deep don't hold the same power. That's healing in motion. That's proof you're no longer living from your wounds. You're responding from wisdom. And wisdom changes everything. The universe is responding to your emotional maturity. Energy meets energy. What you tolerate, what you choose, what you walk away from, all of it sends a signal. And right now, your signal is clarity. That's why situations that don't align are fading without drama. That's why certain people are naturally distancing themselves. That's not loss. That's alignment. Love is still part of this journey, but it's being approached differently now. You're no longer asking, will they choose me? You're asking, does this feel safe? Does this feel mutual? Does this feel peaceful? Those questions are sacred. They protect your heart while keeping it open. And that balance is exactly what the next connection requires. Thank you, Jesus, for reshaping their standards. Thank you for teaching them the difference between intensity and intimacy. Thank you for removing confusion disguised as passion. Their heart is learning how to recognize consistency as love. You may feel moments of sudden emotion lately, a wave of gratitude, a quiet tear, a deep exhale you didn't realize you were holding. Those are releases. Old energy leaving. New awareness settling in. You're shedding layers that can't go with you where you're headed. There is also a calling stirring. Not loud. Not dramatic. Subtle, persistent. A sense that you're meant for more than routine, more than survival, more than just getting by. That calling doesn't rush you. It invites you. It grows clearer the more you honor your inner truth. Right now, you are being positioned, not pushed. Preparation doesn't always look productive. Sometimes it looks like rest. Sometimes it looks like stillness. Sometimes it looks like doing less so you can receive more. And that's uncomfortable for a mind trained to equate worth with effort. Thank you, Jesus, for permission to slow down. Thank you for teaching them that rest is not laziness, it's alignment. Thank you for restoring their energy so they can recognize what truly matters. You're beginning to understand that not every door requires knocking. Some doors open when you're simply ready to walk through them. And readiness isn't about perfection, it's about honesty. About knowing what you can give, what you can receive, and what you will no longer accept. This season is sharpening your discernment. You feel truth faster now. You sense misalignment sooner. You trust yourself more. That's not arrogance, that's self-connection. And self-connection leads to divine connection. There's something being adjusted in your favor right now that you're not meant to interfere with. If you try to control it, you'll disrupt the timing. If you trust it, you'll recognize it when it arrives. That's why patience is being tested, not to frustrate you, but to prepare you to receive without fear. You're not invisible. You're not forgotten. You're not stuck. You're in a transition that doesn't need to announce itself to be real. Growth often happens quietly. Transformation rarely asks for permission. And as this message continues to unfold, there's still more beneath the surface, more clarity forming, more alignment taking shape, more understanding waiting to rise when the moment is right, because what you're stepping into next connects directly to the lesson you've just completed and the awareness you're carrying now. And that connection is still revealing itself as this season continues to move forward without rushing its purpose. Don't scroll. Please don't scroll. Listen to this. This message is for you. Yes, you. The one who felt a sudden pause in their chest. The one who didn't plan to stop but did anyway. That pause is not random. That is alignment. That is your spirit responding before your mind can explain why. Take a slow breath right now. Let it land. Your heart needs this more than you realize. This Sunday, January 5th, is not just another date. Spiritually, it's a threshold. A moment where reflection meets revelation. Where gratitude unlocks what the future has been quietly holding back for the right timing. You didn't arrive at this new year empty. You arrived carrying wisdom, scars, prayers, and strength you didn't know you had when the journey began. Thank you, Jesus, for bringing them this far. For waking them up today when there were moments they didn't think they'd make it through. Thank you for sustaining them through seasons that demanded everything from them and gave little back in return. There were nights they questioned everything. Nights they cried silently. Nights they asked you why. And still, you carried them. Still, you covered them. If you're being honest with yourself, the last year changed you. Deeply. You don't react the same. You don't attach the same. You don't chase the same things anymore. And sometimes that scares you, because growth can feel like loss before it feels like freedom. But this change wasn't accidental. It was necessary. You were shedding versions of yourself that couldn't go where God is taking you next. Listen closely, because this is prophetic. What felt like delay was divine protection. What felt like rejection was redirection. God had to move certain people out of your life before they damaged what was meant to be preserved. He had to close doors you kept knocking on because behind them was pain disguised as familiarity. You weren't being punished. You were being spared. You've been seeing the signs. Don't ignore that. Repeating numbers. 1111 showing up when you're thinking about your future. 222 when you're questioning a relationship. 444 when you're feeling tired but still pushing. Those are not coincidences. Those are confirmations. Those are reminders that you are guided, supported, and watched over, even when life feels quiet. Your spiritual awakening didn't happen overnight. It unfolded slowly, through heartbreak, through solitude, through disappointment that forced you to look inward instead of outward. You learned how to sit with yourself. You learned how to listen. You learned how to feel without running away. And that alone changed everything. Thank you, Jesus, for the loneliness that taught them self-connection. Thank you for the stillness that revealed their strength. Thank you for unanswered prayers that saved them from futures they weren't meant to live. You saw what they couldn't see at the time. And now, they're starting to understand. Let's talk about your heart for a moment. Because that's where this message is landing the hardest. You love deeply. Maybe more deeply than the people you loved knew how to handle. You gave chances. You waited. You hoped. You believed in potential. And when it ended, it didn't just end, it took pieces of you with it. But hear this clearly, your heart didn't break to be destroyed. It broke to expand. You were being prepared for a different kind of love. Not chaotic. Not confusing. Not inconsistent. A soulmate-level connection that meets you in peace, not anxiety. A love that doesn't trigger your wounds, but honors your healing. The universe had to heal you first. God had to align you first. Because the next connection requires the version of you that knows their worth. Thank you, Jesus, for teaching them the difference between attachment and alignment. Thank you for removing intensity disguised as love. Thank you for reshaping their standards so they no longer confuse effort with consistency. Their heart is wiser now. Softer, but stronger. You may have noticed how your reactions have changed. Things that once triggered you don't hit the same anymore. You pause instead of reacting. You observe instead of chasing. You protect your peace instead of explaining yourself. That's not emotional distance. That's emotional maturity. That's healing in motion. The universe responds to that level of awareness. Energy meets energy. And right now, your energy is clearer than it's ever been. That's why certain situations faded without drama. That's why some people drifted without explanation. That's not loss. That's alignment. Everything misaligned is quietly exiting so what's meant for you can arrive without obstruction. Thank you, Jesus, for the release they didn't know how to ask for. Thank you for lifting emotional burdens they normalized for too long. Thank you for restoring peace in subtle ways, not loud miracles, but quiet ones. The kind that rebuild trust in life itself. Right now, there is something unlocking inside you, belief. Not loud confidence. Not forced positivity. Quiet knowing. The kind that doesn't need proof. The kind that says, I trust what's unfolding, even if I don't see it yet. That belief is powerful. It shifts timelines. It opens doors. It signals readiness to heaven. Gratitude is the key in this season. That's why this message found you today. Gratitude doesn't deny pain, it transforms it. Gratitude tells the universe, I trust you before the evidence appears. And that trust changes everything. So say it in your spirit right now. Thank you, Jesus, for what I see and what I don't see yet. Thank you for the protection I misunderstood. Thank you for the healing I didn't notice happening. Thank you for the love that's being prepared. Thank you for the version of me that's being reborn. Take a breath. Feel that warmth in your chest. That calm. That release. That's confirmation. That's peace replacing anxiety. This season is not asking you to prove anything. It's asking you to receive, to allow, to trust. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not late to your destiny. Heaven doesn't work on human clocks. What's meant for you is arriving at the perfect pace, quietly, strategically, divinely timed. The blessing doesn't announce itself early. It arrives when you're ready to sustain it. Love will meet you when fear no longer leads. Purpose will clarify when comparison fades. Peace will stay when you stop negotiating with what doesn't align. And you are closer than you think, closer than you feel, closer than your doubts will let you believe. This new year didn't come to test you. It came to meet you at the level you've grown into. You're not the same person who entered the last chapter. You're wiser, stronger, more grounded, more aware. And because of that, what's coming won't feel overwhelming. It will feel familiar, like something your soul has been expecting. As you move forward from this moment, carry this truth with you. Gratitude has already unlocked the door. Faith has already moved the pieces. Love is already on its way. Purpose is already calling your name. And remember this, the reason this message found you is because heaven wanted you to know one thing above all else. You are covered, you are guided, and everything that's coming next will finally make sense of everything you had to walk through before. Feel the warmth in your chest. That calm. That release. That's confirmation. That's peace replacing anxiety. This season is not asking you to prove anything. It's asking you to receive, to allow, to trust. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not late to your destiny. Heaven doesn't work on human clocks. What's meant for you is arriving at the perfect pace, quietly, strategically, divinely timed. The blessing doesn't announce itself early. It arrives when you're ready to sustain it. Love will meet you when fear no longer leads. Purpose will clarify when comparison fades. Peace will stay when you stop negotiating with what doesn't align. And you are closer than you think, closer than you feel, closer than your doubts will let you believe. This new year didn't come to test you. It came to meet you at the level you've grown into. You're not the same person who entered the last chapter. You're wiser, stronger, more grounded, more aware. And because of that, what's coming won't feel overwhelming. It will feel familiar, like something your soul has been expecting. As you move forward from this moment, carry this truth with you. Gratitude has already unlocked the door. Faith has already moved the pieces. Love is already on its way. Purpose is already calling your name. And remember this, the reason this message found you is because heaven wanted you to know one thing above all else. You are covered, you are guided, and everything that's coming next will finally make sense of everything you had to walk through before.